Hello, Dick Pixers. Welcome back to the series where Chard continues to have a mental breakdown from being forced to watch Rick and Morty.
Hey everybody, I'm dead inside.
How did you find episode 3, season 4?
Season 4, episode 3, one crew over the Cuckoo's Morty.
Yeah.
Which of course this is a weekly thing now. I have to do this. It's a play on the classic Jack Nicholson film, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where Jack Nicholson goes around a mental hospital and convinces other patients to join his heist. Or whatever. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, I liked this episode. I thought it was good
Yeah, I thought it was the best one of the season.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah. I think part of it is because Rick and Morty are actually, together for most of this. And because it was just one plot, it moves a lot smoother, I think.
it does. Yeah, it's paced really well, and it kind of what I think is funny about it is that they spent the first two episodes of the season being like, we don't want to do fun, pointless Rick and Morty adventures anymore because we're above that, and then that's what this episode is, and it's the best
Yeah.
one. It's like, okay, like, good job, you figured it out.
Yeah.
So the big thing with this episode, I think, is that the so obviously it's making fun of heist movies and just heist stories in general and their
I think
structure.
specifically
by
Now You See Me.
Oh, is it specifically making fun of that one?
Well, I know that Dan Harmon hates those movies.
Oh yeah, because that like Dan Harmon Now You See Me rant was recommended to me on YouTube for like a fucking year until I
Yeah,
finally
yeah.
watched it. Holy
So
shit.
he's been out on these. He's had a burden against these films
Yeah.
for a long time. So.
And so obviously like the whole episode is written to just like turn all heist movie elements like up to fucking 10,000 and just make fun of it constantly. But then you get to the end and it turns out this episode was actually a heist the whole time. It was a heist to get Morty to like give up on his ambitions and go on adventures with Rick for the rest of his life.
Because he's controlling.
Yeah, so guess what? The twist of this episode is that there was actually character development the whole time.
And you didn't know. You didn't
Yeah,
even notice.
and you didn't even know.
Yeah.
And so the first time I watched the episode, I actually really liked that. I thought that was kind of clever that they could find a way to have a fun, wacky adventure and also like have something kind of interesting to say about the character without also like devoting too much time to it and like thinking that they're so special for developing a character in a story.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then
yeah.
the second time through, the character development aspect or like just the deeper character aspect in general just really isn't present at all until the very end, and so it's hard for me to like appreciate it the same way.
Yeah, my issue with this big twist thing, and I get it, I get why they did that, and it is funny, but Rick is literally ripping the core out of planets and moving planets, for the sake of stopping Morty from writing a Netflix script.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought that Rick had at least some kind of way of respect for the way that the universe works and some kind of understanding. But it seems like for the sake of it being funny, I much preferred a robot that he built being an enemy of his, being really hard to take down. I enjoyed seeing one of his robots go completely wrong and start to take over the universe,
Yeah.
and then it sort of becomes Rick's mind. But then when at the end it was all his idea, it's kind of weird because the way that he beats the robot at the end is kind of not built up or explained in any real way. So I don't really know how that could have been part of his plan all along. Maybe it's just to drain Morty for 2 hours straight.
And then yeah, so what I think is interesting about that is that I like that as an individual idea. The whole thing that whoever wins in a heist story is just the person who happened to have one extra switcheroo over the other person, and that it goes on for that fucking long, and it's just that one that makes him completely victorious in the end. I do think that that's funny, but also in a way that's not difficult to write from a plotting perspective.
Yeah.
And this entire episode is so mean spirited toward heist stories in general. There's even that line where they're like, oh, the best heist story is one that was never written at all. That's what the heist robot
That's
says
what he
before
says
it dies.
at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, and so clearly Dan Harmon and all the other writers think they're so much better than people who write heist stories and they're so above that. But then this episode doesn't, like, as clever and as well written as this episode is, it's not like clever and well written enough to justify its own pretentiousness, I think.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, because if it was Rick's plan all along, then there could have been some things that we saw, like, at the end as a reveal, rather than just, like, a conversation with Beth, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Like, is he, like, remote controlling the robots? Is he, like, you know, we're seeing some other aspect of it for it to make sense would have been. You know, maybe he needed those planet cores for, like, some other thing.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, I took it as that the robot actually was in control of itself, and
But Rick knew.
Rick knew that he'd be able
exactly
to get one over on it. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. And, like, I guess we can't really know for sure because it's not clarified. Because you're right, the only flashbacks they show are from before the episode even started, as opposed to stuff within the actual episode, which probably would have been more interesting.
Yeah, because it's not like, oh, these are the bits that you missed. It's like, no, like, Rick was just always planning everything we've seen him do. He's just always been planning exactly that, and he's just been acting the whole episode.
Yeah.
It kind of like makes it all a bit. It makes it. I get why they do it though. I get why they've done that, just for a final big reveal, a big like haha, which is part of the humor.
Yeah, and I do like it. Like I think it could have been better, but I did like it. I think it's like, I mean, again, just as we said, this episode in general is by far the best thing to have come out of the season so far.
Yeah.
And so I don't want it to say, like, just because we're criticizing it for some things, that it, like, wasn't still good, because it was.
Yeah, who was your favorite crew member?
I liked Mr. Poopy Butthole coming back.
Yeah, me too.
I thought that was well utilized, and not done just for, like, a reference.
I love that after credit scene because it's been such a long time deconstructing like one really dumb moment in the episode that like no one thought about.
Yeah, clearing up the plot holes as always.
Yeah.
I think I really so the whole "you son of a bitch, I'm in" thing I think is really funny.
Yeah.
But I think my favorite one of like the original crew that he's trying to put together is when he goes to the bar where Glar is playing the piano and he's like, "No, I go by Glear now." And the guy's like, "Play the piano," and he's like, "No," and the name is Glar. like a hyper condensed version of like an actual, we got to convince this guy to return to his like heisting roots, but in this scene it just happens instantly, and I think and with the name change and everything, I think that's really funny.
Yeah, no, that was really funny and really thought through with all the different like conventions, and the character designs as well were really sick, and they felt like they felt like actual characters. They felt like I wanted to see them, like more of them actually, like Truckula as well. Like these are just like cool characters they could potentially bring back if they wanted to, I think.
I think Ventriloquiver is a really cool concept for a character. Sick. And part of what's so great about Ventriloquiver is that the only time that she uses her like arrow ventriloquism ability is to say that she's in on the job, and then she never uses it again.
And then she does some astrology thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting though because Rick says that he's accidentally stuck, like they're trapped in this robotic algorithm that's constantly recruiting people for a heist movie that's never gonna happen. And like Rick says that's the worst part of like heist movies. But they've kind of built most of the episode around recruitment scenes. And
I do think it works still. But
I like the opening scene as well. With the
yeah. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, the booby trap thing was really funny. What I was gonna say about the beginning is that like, especially with the whole end reveal that he was just doing this to get Morty to stop writing the heist script. I wish that they had like brought up the heist script a little bit more early in the episode, so that was a more satisfying reveal. Because that's only kind of minorly hinted at for the first half of the episode, and it opens on them already on their adventure, and what Rick says is, well, you're the one who wanted to go on an epic adventure. So there's not really an implication from the start that Morty isn't interested on going on adventures.
Yeah, and then in the flashback with Beth, he says that he hasn't gone on like the last 3 adventures, because he's been up in his room writing a heist script.
Exactly, and so there's a disconnect there of, well, why did Morty want to go on this adventure, and why is Rick framing it like he's the one who wanted to do it in the first place? And like Morty doesn't call him out on that. It's a little weird.
It's kind of structured like a Simpsons episode. Like the first half was Rick being pissed off with this like heist guy because he stole his thing that he wanted, and then the second half is him like taking on like the heistatron that he built. And I think that worked well for it. I wasn't expecting the heist guy to die.
Yeah, and I ultimately am okay with that because I thought the heist character was pretty boring.
Yeah, he was. He reminded me of like the bounty hunter guy. Or like Satan. He was kind of just like pretty generic Rick and Morty, like kind of goofy villain.
Just with like a really boring vocal performance from someone that they just thought would be cool to have on the show, which is also the
Yeah.
only fucking reason that Elon Musk is in this episode.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, Elon Musk is in this.
And his voice acting is so bad. It's so fucking boring.
It feels very like forced. It wasn't like part of the plot or anything. Like
It's like
But,
it's exactly like the Ed Sheeran moment from Game of Thrones in season 7,
yeah,
where they found out like, oh hey, this famous person that we really like watches the show. What if we got him in an episode?
Elon Musk writes itself.
Yeah. But then we'll make up for our like incessant fanboying over Elon Musk by having Rick like make fun of him and take shots at him the entire episode, and that'll make it good.
I don't know. I feel like a Rick Elon Musk like scene or episode could have had like some pretty cool interactions, but I think they just like added him in like to a plot that they already had, and I wasn't sad that he was there. Really, he was kind of funny. Maybe
It was just mildly annoying for me, and I think that if they were gonna do like an Elon Musk or Elon Tusk or whatever episode, it would probably benefit from having somebody else play Elon Musk.
Yeah, because I thought it was just like a bad impression of him when I first saw it. I was like, I think that's just like a really bad like impression of him.
Because
And then
it's
it
so
was
stilted and
actually-
unnatural, and then it's actually
Yeah.
Elon Musk doing it. Yeah, and also I love that this episode came out. I don't remember if the whole Cybertruck thing was before this episode aired or after, but I just
I
love
think
that
it was around
happened.
the time.
It was around the same time, and so I just love that happened so close in proximity to each other. Where Elon Musk makes like a huge fucking fool of himself on stage in front of the entire world, and then Rick and Morty is like, "Yeah, we got this cool guy in an episode," and it's the fucking Cybertruck guy. That it's just funny to me.
The closest episode I can sort of compare this to is like the Vindicators, where like the whole thing is just like, like a parody of like a certain genre of movies.
Yeah, with a wacky cast of characters and stuff.
Yeah.
The difference
yeah.
is that this episode is good, because it's
Yeah.
actually like saying something at least, even if it is a little episode ass.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it works in just making fun of heist movies and being just like a fun science fiction like comedy Rick and Morty episode that makes fun of heist movies. But I think it could have had a little bit more going for it, because though these recruitment scenes with all these like weird characters who are like so quirky and have like little different skills and traits are really fun and exciting to watch, they don't like forward plot. They're just like funny like scenes, and I feel like quite a lot of that, if you were to look at that as filler, which is what I think it is, then quite a lot of the episode is filler, but it's good filler. It's not bad filler.
I think what it is like in and of itself, it's good and it's fine and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that it's like so much of the episode is that. And it does start to get a little bit repetitive and a little bit exhausting, even with how fast the pace is.
What do you think they were trying to say with the whole like Randatron versus like Heistatron, like that whole part of it? Because that felt quite messy to me, purely because Heistatron had been doing actual heists that like had logical sense to them. So for them to say, "Oh, you were Randatron like all along," like,
I don't know. I think I think that's just because I don't know from a plot perspective, like I don't know what actually was happening there, but I think the point was that it wasn't supposed to make sense. Like it was supposed to be as convoluted as possible, to the point where there were so many double crosses and switcheroos, as they say, like that you can't even tell what the fuck happened by the time it's all done.
Yeah, because I felt like Rick's plan to fight against Heistatron doing completely random things that don't make any sense is so funny. I was like laughing so much when I saw that part.
Yeah.
Where they just all were going off and doing like completely weird shit. Like it seemed really separate. And I kind of wanted to see that build into a plan and for Heistatron to be defeated like in that way. So then when it was just like, oh, Heistatron is Randomtron, they keep swapping, like it didn't add that to me. It didn't really make that part of the story connect. It just sort of felt like another way of going back to the same old double cross.
Wasn't
It was
the
secretly
final
me
twist
all along.
or reveal or whatever that like they were both Heistotron? Like whichever one ended up having the brain of Randotron had like a chip in it that made it another Heistotron. So Rick like successfully destroys one of them, but then
I think it was just he was swapping the labels around.
because that isn't there a shot where it like goes in to the Randotron brain and then it goes in even more and like to the side and there's a Heistotron chip
Yeah, but
in it.
I didn't know if the other one was just with the random Tron.
Yeah,
chip.
I don't know.
Yeah, see,
So-
like that's the thing is like I think we're not supposed to know.
I guess, yeah, and that kind of is the issue with a lot of parody stuff is that like you can have elements that are like kind of bad to make fun of the way that things are bad in the thing that you're satirizing, but then like if you don't add on an extra element to that, the thing is still just bad like within your actual satire. And so I think the way that they tried to make up for this was just by having so many double crosses and everything. But then it ultimately does still end up just being confusing and kind of unfulfilling once everything is revealed. So even if that was the point, it doesn't make it like good or fun to watch in this episode, I guess.
Yeah, because as well, what you were saying with it kind of had an emotional beat at the end. It had some sort of character arc. It had a thing at the end.
Yeah.
With it was a heist. The real heist was like Rick trying to steal his dreams. We don't really feel bad for Morty.
No, and I also don't feel in general like this reveal is really going to mean anything long term just because of the show's history of developing stuff and saying things about the characters and then just fucking forgetting about it.
Yeah, so it doesn't quite land in a way that I think it could land, especially if we saw how invested Morty was, because they tell us that Morty's invested in this high script, but when he's talking to Rick, he's just like, yeah, I'm doing a high script. He's not like really excited about it. But then if he's so excited that he's missing out on adventures and he's like in his room the whole time, like there's definitely a side of Morty's character in this episode that we could have seen that we didn't see.
Yeah, and that just goes back to what I was saying, that like it would have been nice if the episode had opened with that.
Yeah.
And like I get they have to keep it down to 22 minutes or whatever, and it would have been hard to like do other cuts.
Yeah, because it could have been like Morty writing a script and Rick being like, "Oh, how about we go on a real heist?" Like, or something.
Or something. Yeah, it would have been really easy to set it up that way, and it just isn't. So I wonder if like that in a way that kind of makes me feel like the reveal at the end that this was the real heist all along was kind of tacked on after they'd already been writing this episode for a while. And they kind of just went back through the episode and added little things to make it seem like it was set up more. And like, I don't know for sure. Like, obviously we can't say that definitively, but...
I can.
Oh, okay. The real heist.
I was there all along.
The real heist was our Rick and Morty discussion. Was the writer's room for Rick and Morty the whole time.
You didn't even know.
And you didn't even know. I like the Netflix pitch meeting as well.
Yeah. Does Netflix have like bad heist shows?
I just know the joke with Netflix is that they'll greenlight anything at this point.
South Park used to. They did this joke where someone would answer the phone at Netflix and they'd be like, "Hello, you're greenlit."
Yeah.
Yeah. It was good. It was good. I liked the water. When Morty looked down at the bottle of water and his like face was behind the water bottle, it was very like Taxi Driver-esque. Like,
Yeah.
to show his kind of
a neat
feelings.
shot.
Yeah, no, I liked it. So what would you give this? How many Pickle Ricks out of 5?
I would give this episode a solid 3.5 Pickle Ricks out of 5, maybe a 4, but probably just a 3.5.
I would give this 3.5 as well.
Nice.
But yeah, we're gonna be having a look at the next 2 episodes. Any predictions?
I'm gonna predict that the next one is gonna be pretty good, and episode 5 is gonna have some really dumb bullshit, like Rick Chury and Morty Date style, where they're like, where they try to like tie everything up, but it's like really
We're gonna
haphazard.
go back to season 1, but more streamlined.
Yeah, like it's gonna be like, because what happened in season 3 obviously is they were gonna do 14 episodes and then they had to cut it down to 10. And the Rick Chury and Morty Date is like really, really bloated, and like so much stuff is cramped in there, and like none of it is good. And because they had to cut it off, but they still wanted it to seem conclusive in some way. And I think that with this, because they're splitting it like 5 episodes and then 5 more episodes, I think that episode 5 is going to suffer from the same problem. So that's my prediction.
Well, we'll have to see. All right. See you later, guys.
Sorry, this one was so short. I guess that really is the biggest criticism we can offer. Is like we said, there's just not much to talk about. But
yeah, that's my biggest criticism.
yeah. Oh, and also the Asperger's joke was a little eh. That's my other criticism.
Chard was triggered.
I was triggered.
What else
I had
is
to
new?
get another
You damn snowflake.
another SJW criticism. Oh, and also like the African American women's studies thing, where they're like, that's the class Mr. Poopy Butthole was teaching. And it's like this huge classroom because the university cares about it, but there's like no students in there because nobody actually cares about it. That's what I took from that, but that's just my Antifa communist
if the classroom was full up, then Mr. Poopy Butthole would have to fight like so many students.
That's true, which would have been a more entertaining episode. So get your shit together, Dan Harmon. Jesus
and as
Christ.
as a subject for Mr. Poopy Butthole to teach, like African American women studies is like one of the funniest subjects that he can teach, I think.
I guess, yeah. I felt like the writers thought it was funny for a different reason that I would find it funny, but it's fine. It's whatever. Okay, and then the one last thing. I'm just gonna like push this as much as I possibly can. This isn't an SJW criticism. Dan Harmon keeps voicing characters this season, and he's really bad.
Who did he voice in this episode?
He voiced a lot of characters in this episode. He voiced both of
the robots.
He voiced both of the robots, yeah, and he voiced a couple other things as well. I just can't remember because it's so forgettable. And there was like the Fly mafia boss character last episode that we talked about, and I think there were a couple in the first episode as well. And he's the guy at the bar that Glar throws the piano at.
Oh,
so he's that guy. So he just keeps playing like these boring side characters, and it's not in the same way as Justin Roiland, where he does a ton of voices and they're all like, you can tell they're him, and like he reuses voices a lot, but at least they're like unique and fun to listen to.
Yeah,
all of these
at
characters,
least they don't sound flat.
yeah, all of these characters are just Dan Harmon talking, and like it's so much more than it has been in past seasons, and it's like kind of getting on my nerves.
He's not an actor. Why is he doing that? What's he got to prove?
I don't know. I wonder if he feels left out because people associate Rick and Morty more with Justin Roiland than they do with him, and he wants to like put himself in the actual episodes or something. Yeah. I don't know. This is all just, I mean, I've been doing a lot of...
He's gone off his viral video fame of hating Now You See Me with this episode. So he's imprinting his mark onto the show more and more.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, that was my last criticism, was just...
Those were your little
niggles. More psychoanalysis of Dan Harmon, which I can't like claim is true or accurate in any sense because I don't know him. And it's like irresponsible to judge art that way. But, you know, fuck it. I don't really like him. I think he's kind of a nasty person.
Well, so, you heard it here.
those are our thoughts on one crew over the Cuckoo's Morty. Thanks for listening, Dick Pixers.
Cheers, guys.
Apparently, I just heisted the outro from you. That's it. That's the end.